What if I told you that the most meaningful victory in your life might not be your biggest paycheck, your wedding day, or even the moment you held your first grandchild, but something as simple as waking up at age 83, swinging your legs out of bed, and whispering to yourself, "I can still do this." That quiet confidence, that silent strength, it's not something the world applauds. But for those who've lived long enough, it means everything. Let me share a story I've carried with me for years. His name was Mr. Harold. He was 82, living in a quiet neighborhood in Oregon. Every single morning, without fail, he laced up his sneakers and went for a brisk 2-mile walk. Rain or shine. He didn't use a cane. He didn't complain. He just walked. When I asked him once why he never missed a day, he smiled and said, "Because if I can still walk out my door by myself, I know I still belong to this world." That hit me like a wave. Because in my years working with seniors, both healthy and fragile, I've seen the difference between merely existing and truly living. And that difference often comes down to just a few essential abilities we too often take for granted, until they're gone. You see, most people believe aging is about loss of strength, of memory, of independence. Society tends to paint old age as a slow surrender. But that's a lie. Aging, in reality, is a stage of power, if you know what to protect. And in this video, we're going to uncover the 3 powerful things that, if you can still do at 80 or beyond, make you a true winner in life. These aren't things that require wealth, fame, or perfect health. These are human abilities, quiet, often invisible, that anchor your dignity, your spirit, and your joy. So I invite you to stay with me until the very end, because what we'll explore today could radically change how you see your future or how you care for someone you love. As someone who has spent over a decade working in senior wellness and geriatric care, I've learned that thriving in your later years has little to do with how many pills you take or how many diagnoses you carry. It has everything to do with what you can still do on your own, with clarity and purpose. That's where true confidence comes from. I've seen 85-year-olds who walk taller than 50-year-olds because they protected the 3 foundations of vibrant aging: body, mind, and heart. And yes, it's possible. I've seen it. I've helped cultivate it. Let me be honest, this video isn't a fantasy or a fairy tale. You may hear some things that are hard to swallow. You may feel regret or even a touch of grief for things you've let slip away, but you'll also find hope, real hope. Because every one of these 3 abilities we're about to explore can be strengthened, even reclaimed, with consistent, loving effort. So whether you're already 80, approaching 70, or still decades away, the information in this video could become one of the most important turning points in your later life journey. Because what we preserve now, what we build today, becomes our power tomorrow. Let's take a moment to reflect. Can you still walk steadily from one end of the room to another without help? Can you recall your best friend's name from childhood? Can you smile, truly smile, when no one is watching? If you said yes to any of these, you're already doing something extraordinary. And I don't say that lightly. I say it as someone who's sat beside hospital beds, who's listened to regrets whispered in hospice, and who's watched bright eyes dim not because of disease, but because of disconnection. Too often, we ignore the beauty of what still is, because we're too focused on what's gone. This video is an invitation to change that. Now, before we dive into the heart of the message, I want to pause for a moment and ask for something small, yet meaningful. If this message is already stirring something in you, whether it's inspiration, reflection, or even a bit of discomfort, I invite you to engage. Tap the like button. Subscribe so you never miss another conversation like this. And most importantly, leave a comment below sharing what still living fully means to you. Maybe you're caring for an aging parent. Maybe you're the one aging. Either way, your story matters. And by sharing it, you help others realize they're not alone. I read every comment. I learned from them. And I know someone else reading yours might feel a spark of hope they didn't have before. So what will we uncover today? 3 abilities, 3 pillars, and none of them require perfection. In fact, one of the most powerful things I've learned is that thriving after 80 has very little to do with how youthful you look or feel. It has everything to do with how present you are, how much of your life you're still choosing to live intentionally. We'll explore why the ability to take care of your own body isn't just about hygiene. It's about preserving your self-respect. We'll look at how maintaining mental clarity, even in a world that moves faster than you, can become a source of joy, confidence, and inner peace. And we'll reflect on the quiet power of emotional connection, whether with a spouse, a dear friend, or the strangers you greet each morning. These may sound like simple things, but they're not. They're sacred. I've seen them lift people from depression, from fear, even from the brink of giving up. I've seen an 87-year-old man who lost his wife, found his will to live again simply by joining a community choir and remembering how to laugh. I've watched an 81-year-old woman stand straighter, walk farther, just because she started doing her own hair again in the mirror each morning. These moments are not miracles. They're the natural result of reclaiming control, bit by bit, breath by breath. And you, too, can start now. So again, if you've made it this far, thank you. That means you're open. You're curious. And that's the first sign that you're still very much alive. I hope you'll keep watching. Because up next, we'll begin with what I consider the foundation of all the rest, the physical independence to care for your own body. But don't worry, this isn't about running marathons or lifting weights. It's about something far more personal, far more empowering. The dignity of standing tall in your own space, of moving with purpose, and of holding on to your autonomy with both hands. So let's begin, because you deserve to live the years ahead not with fear, but with pride. Brain Part 1. Taking care of your body. Health is your right to independence. Imagine this. You're 81 years old, and you wake up one morning feeling a little stiffness in your knees. But instead of calling for help, you quietly slide your legs over the edge of the bed, push yourself up, walk into the bathroom, brush your teeth, and fix yourself a light breakfast. No applause, no audience. But in that moment, you are victorious. That might not seem like a big deal to some. But if you ask anyone who's lost their ability to do those things, they'll tell you, it means everything. Taking care of your body after 80 isn't just about staying fit. It's about preserving the most precious thing you have left, your independence. In fact, I'd argue that independence is the true measure of health in your later years, not the number of medications you take or your cholesterol level. It's whether you can still move through your life on your own terms. Over the past decade, I've worked with hundreds of seniors, from active 70-year-olds who hike every weekend to 90-year-olds who struggle to get out of bed. And what I've learned is this: the difference between the two is rarely about luck. It's about daily choices. Small, simple, consistent habits that either protect your independence or slowly erode it. You see, when we're young, we take these things for granted. Getting dressed, walking up a few stairs, reaching for something on the top shelf, simple tasks that require strength, balance, and coordination. But as we age, these everyday movements become silent indicators of our freedom. When we can no longer perform them, we don't just lose physical function, we lose confidence, dignity, and a piece of ourselves. Let me tell you about someone who changed the way I think about this forever. Her name was Marie, and she was 85 when I met her. She lived alone, had mild arthritis, and refused to use a walker. "I'm not ready to give up," she'd say with a smirk. Every morning, she'd stretch for 10 minutes, walk laps inside her apartment, and lift 2-pound hand weights while watching TV. Nothing fancy, but she never missed a day. And because of that, she could still shop for groceries, water her plants, and take the bus to church on Sundays. She wasn't trying to be young again. She was fiercely protecting her ability to live life on her own terms. And that's what this section is all about. Not avoiding aging, but owning it. Choosing to age with intention. Choosing to move your body, nourish it, listen to it, and thank it for carrying you this far. So what does that look like in real life? First, movement is non-negotiable. And I'm not talking about joining a gym or running marathons. I'm talking about gentle, consistent activity, walking, stretching, standing up from a chair without using your arms, lifting light weights, practicing balance. These simple movements maintain muscle strength, prevent falls, improve circulation, and keep your joints limber. According to the National Institute on Aging, even 15 minutes a day of light activity can significantly reduce the risk of disability after 75. Next is nutrition. Your body is no longer forgiving in your 80s. Every bite you take either builds you up or breaks you down. Prioritize whole foods, leafy greens for vitamins, salmon or tofu for protein, berries for antioxidants, and plenty of water. Avoid processed foods that trigger inflammation and sap your energy. And if your appetite is low, which is common, try smaller meals more often, always with a source of protein to maintain muscle mass. Let's talk about rest and recovery. Too many older adults push through fatigue thinking it's weakness. It's not. Rest is essential for healing and balance. Sleep disturbances are common as we age, so create a routine. Go to bed at the same time, limit screens before bedtime, and make your room cool and quiet. Quality sleep strengthens immunity, improves focus, and helps your body repair overnight. But here's something many people overlook. Your mindset about your body matters just as much as the body itself. Do you speak to your body with kindness or frustration? Do you see it as a failing machine or a faithful friend that's carried you through decades of life? There's power in gratitude. One client of mine, John, was 88 when he suffered a mild stroke. In rehab, he could have given up, many do, but each day he'd say out loud, "Thank you, legs. Thank you, arms. Let's do this." And over the course of 6 weeks, he not only walked again, he danced at his granddaughter's wedding. That kind of recovery starts in the heart, not just the muscles. Yes, bodies age. Yes, pain happens. But your body still listens to you. And when you treat it with respect, not punishment, it responds. Now, let's talk about the emotional side of physical decline. When someone loses the ability to bathe themselves or cook a meal, it's not just inconvenient, it's humiliating. I've seen proud, intelligent men break down in tears because they couldn't button their own shirt. And I've watched women who once ran households feel invisible because they now rely on others for help. This pain is real. It's quiet, and it eats away at self-worth. That's why maintaining your physical independence is not about ego. It's about self-respect. It's about waking up and saying, "I still have some control. I still have value." So if you're watching this and thinking, "Well, I can't do what I used to," I want you to remember this. You don't have to do what you used to. You just have to do what you still can. And then protect that ability like your life depends on it, because it does. And if you're caring for someone else in this stage of life, remember, their desire to be physically independent isn't stubbornness. It's identity. Give them space to try. Support them with tools and patience. Cheer for the small wins. Because those small wins are enormous in the heart of someone who's scared of becoming invisible. Before we move on to the next part of our conversation, I want to leave you with one question. What is one small thing you can do today that protects your independence tomorrow? Maybe it's walking to the mailbox instead of driving. Maybe it's cooking one meal instead of ordering in. Maybe it's stretching before bed. Whatever it is, do it with love. Because every act of care for your body is a declaration that your life still matters. Now that we've explored the physical foundation of aging well, it's time to shift to something just as powerful, but often harder to hold on to, your mind. Coming up next, we'll talk about how to protect your mental clarity so that you not only move through life with strength, but also with focus, joy, and awareness. Because what good is physical freedom if your thoughts can no longer guide you? Brain Part 2, Maintaining Mental Clarity, the priceless treasure of a clear mind. Let me ask you something. What's more terrifying to an 82-year-old woman? Climbing stairs or forgetting her own daughter's name? That question stopped me cold the first time I heard it. I was sitting with a retired librarian named Diane, sharp-witted and well-read all her life. At 81, she could still navigate her garden and even bake banana bread from scratch. But one morning, while flipping through an old photo album, she stared blankly at her granddaughter's face. "I know her smile," she said, "but I don't know who she is." She looked at me and whispered, "Please, don't let me forget who I am." And in that moment, I realized something that years of clinical training couldn't teach me. Physical strength may get you up the stairs, but mental clarity keeps you connected to your soul. In this section, we'll explore why preserving mental clarity is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. It's the thread that ties you to your memories, your relationships, your identity. And the good news is, even as we age, our minds are far more resilient than we've been led to believe. You see, many people assume that mental decline is inevitable after a certain age. But science and experience tell a different story. While it's true that memory can fade and processing speed may slow, the brain is not a machine that rusts with time. It's more like a muscle. It responds to effort, stimulation, and care. And just like your body, it needs movement, nourishment, and rest. The key difference? When the mind slips, so does everything else. That's why protecting it should be one of your highest priorities. Let's begin with the basics. Mental clarity is not the same as intelligence. It's not about solving math problems or recalling every date in history. It's about being present. It's about following a conversation, expressing your thoughts, making choices, and remembering the people and things that matter to you. And as we age, that clarity is often clouded, not just by age, but by neglect. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is, "There's nothing I can do. It's just part of getting old." That mindset is more dangerous than memory loss, because it invites decline by default. In truth, you have more control over your mental sharpness than you think, through lifestyle, attitude, and habits. So how do we begin to protect this precious treasure? First, feed your brain. Literally, your brain uses up about 20% of your body's total energy. It needs the right fuel to function. That means healthy fats like omega-3s from salmon, walnuts, flaxseed, colorful fruits and vegetables packed with antioxidants, and staying well hydrated. Skip the sugary snacks and heavily processed foods. They spike insulin, increase inflammation, and fog your thinking. One of my patients once said, "When I stopped eating like a teenager, I started thinking like an adult again." It made me smile, but he was right. Clean nutrition brings clarity. Next, move your body to move your mind. Studies have shown that physical activity, especially aerobic exercise, increases blood flow to the brain, delivers oxygen and nutrients, and even stimulates the growth of new brain cells. That's right, your brain can continue to grow and adapt, even in your 80s. I've seen patients regain attention span, balance, and even emotional stability just by committing to 15-minute walks twice a day. Movement is medicine for both body and brain. Now, let's talk about something less obvious but just as important: stress. Chronic stress is like poison for the aging brain. It increases cortisol levels, shrinks parts of the hippocampus, the memory center, and contributes to anxiety, confusion, and even depression. I cannot count the number of older adults I've met who seemed like they were losing mental sharpness, but in truth, they were drowning in unprocessed grief, loneliness, or fear. Their minds weren't broken, they were exhausted. That's why emotional hygiene is just as important as physical hygiene. Take time to breathe deeply, sit in silence, pray, or write in a journal. Practice gratitude. Meditate if you can. And above all, talk. Talk to friends, to neighbors, to family. Human connection isn't a luxury, it's brain protection. In fact, social interaction is one of the most underappreciated mental stimulants in old age. Conversations challenge your brain to listen, process, and respond. Sharing stories pulls up old memories, revives emotional circuits, and strengthens cognitive pathways. Even small talk at the grocery store has benefits. I remember one gentleman named Bernard, quiet, introverted, nearly mute after his wife passed. His family feared he was slipping into dementia. But after joining a senior storytelling group, something remarkable happened. He spoke. He laughed. He remembered. The stories, the laughter, the human warmth, it brought him back. Not entirely, but enough to feel alive again. That's the power of connection. Let's also be real. Technology can be your friend, if you let it. Learn a new app. Watch educational videos. Play digital brain games like puzzles, memory matches, or strategy simulations. These small challenges spark problem-solving, decision-making, and curiosity, all of which keep your brain firing on more cylinders. Aging doesn't mean turning away from the new. It means approaching it at your pace, with intention. But what if you're already feeling forgetful? What if names slip your mind or you lose track of time? First, don't panic. Forgetfulness is not always a sign of disease. Sometimes it's just fatigue, dehydration, stress, or medication side effects. Keep a notebook. Create gentle routines. Label drawers. Use a calendar. But most importantly, stay curious. When you stop learning, your brain starts shrinking. Ask questions. Read articles. Try new things. Curiosity keeps the spark alive. And if you're concerned about cognitive decline, don't wait in silence. Talk to a doctor. There are therapies, supports, and resources that can help slow progression and improve quality of life. The earlier you act, the more empowered you are. Before we wrap up this section, I want to speak to the heart for a moment. Mental clarity is not just about staying sharp. It's about staying you, the real you. The one who remembers birthdays, tells old jokes, recalls the smell of your mother's cooking, or the sound of your father's voice. Losing the connection to yourself is one of the deepest fears many people face as they age. But the antidote is not fear, it's attention. It's small acts of care that say, my mind matters. My memories matter. I still matter. If you're still watching right now, I want you to do something powerful. Pause this video for 30 seconds after it ends and recall the name of your first friend in elementary school. Then remember one moment you shared. Close your eyes and feel it. That's your mind saying, I'm still here. I still remember. And if that touched you, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below. Share your memory. Let's start a thread of stories worth remembering. You never know who you might inspire. Now that we've explored the treasure of a clear mind, we're ready to move into the final piece of the puzzle, the emotional bond that holds everything together. Because while a strong body and sharp mind keep you independent, it's love, laughter, and connection that keep you alive inside. Up next, how staying emotionally connected with your spouse, your friends, or even with yourself can make all the difference in your later years. Let's talk about what it means to age with your heart still open. Part 3. Living happily with your spouse, the rare jewel of growing old together. Let me ask you something that most people don't dare to say out loud. If you lost your spouse tomorrow, would you feel peace or regret? It's a heavy question, I know. But as someone who's worked with couples in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s, I've come to realize one truth. Growing old together is a privilege, but staying emotionally close to it is a choice. And not everyone makes it. Earlier, we talked about the importance of caring for your body and protecting your mind. But what's the point of strong legs and a sharp brain if your heart is lonely? That's why, in this final section, we explore what might be the most profound of all human gifts, the ability to love, forgive, and still laugh with the person who has shared your life's longest road. You see, living with your spouse after 80 isn't about convenience, it's about connection. It's about shared silence that speaks louder than words. It's about knowing each other's habits, faults, and quirks, and still choosing each other every day. Let me tell you about Margaret and Henry, one of the most remarkable couples I've met. They've been married 61 years. She called him Old Bear, and he called her Sunshine. Every morning, without fail, Henry made tea and placed it at her bedside before she woke up. When I asked him why he still did that after 6 decades, he chuckled and said, "Because I still want to be the first reason she smiles every day." That's not just love. That's intention. That's emotional wisdom built through time, forgiveness, and shared storms. But let's be honest, being with someone for 40, 50, or even 60 years is not all sweetness and tea. It's hard work. And as we age, it doesn't necessarily get easier. In fact, many couples find that old frustrations become magnified. Physical limitations test patience. Unresolved resentment simmers. And daily routines feel heavier when energy fades. So how do couples not just stay together, but stay happy together? First, it starts with mutual respect. Even if your spouse forgets things, repeats themselves, or moves more slowly, treat them with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. Aging brings vulnerability. It takes courage to admit you need help. So let your words be soft. Let your tone be gentle. Sometimes, the way you say something matters far more than what you say. Next, laugh. Laugh often. Laugh at yourselves. Laughter is glue. It's oxygen for the heart. And it's a powerful antidote to boredom, tension, and fear. I once watched a couple in their 80s argue over how to load the dishwasher, then burst into laughter because they realized they'd had the same fight for 40 years. "At least we're consistent," the husband joked. That kind of humor doesn't erase problems, but it puts them in perspective. It reminds you that life is short, and not every disagreement is worth carrying. Then there's forgiveness. I can't emphasize this enough. Long-term love is impossible without it. Over decades, you will hurt each other. You will disappoint each other. That's human. But holding on to grudges in your later years is like drinking poison and hoping the other person feels it. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pride, choosing closeness over control, choosing love over being right. Many of my patients say things like, "I wish I hadn't stayed mad so long," or "I wish I had said sorry sooner." Don't let those regrets live in your house. Clear the air. Say the words. Hold their hand. You never know how many more mornings you'll get to share. Let's also talk about rituals. In long relationships, it's easy to stop doing the little things. But often, it's those very things that hold the magic. A daily walk, a shared dessert, reading aloud together, watching the sunset side by side. These moments create rhythm and warmth. They become anchors when life feels uncertain. Even sitting in silence, as long as it's shared, can be a form of intimacy. And let's not forget physical touch. Aging bodies change, but the need for affection doesn't. A hug, a kiss on the cheek, a hand resting gently on the shoulder, all of it matters. It says, "You still belong to me, and I still see you." But what if your marriage isn't perfect? What if it's filled with friction, silence, or distance? Here's what I tell people. It's never too late to soften. One kind word, one shared memory, one apology, one compliment. It can begin to heal decades of quiet resentment. I've seen couples who barely spoke for years suddenly start walking together again, just because one of them said, "I miss how we used to laugh." The key isn't to fix everything overnight, it's to reconnect, one choice at a time. If your spouse is gone, or if you've never had one, this section still matters. Because the principle is not just about marriage. It's about connection. It's about how we treat the people closest to us, how we show up for love, how we offer grace when it's hard. That includes children, friends, caregivers, even yourself. If you're watching this now with your spouse beside you, I encourage you to do something brave today. Tell them one thing you still love about them, one thing you admire, one thing you're grateful for. It may feel awkward. It may even bring tears, but it will also bring life into your relationship, perhaps more than you realize. And if you're watching alone, close your eyes for a moment. Think of the person who stood by you the longest. What would you say to them today, if you could? Whisper it. Write it down. Let the love you carry still have a voice. Before we close this section, I want to say this. Long love is rare, but it's not random. It's built, not in grand gestures, but in quiet decisions, in daily forgiveness, in remembering why you chose each other in the first place, in choosing each other again and again, even when it's hard. And here's a final thought to carry with you. Your relationship is a legacy. Whether it's 10 years or 60, the way you love, forgive, and show up for one another becomes the model your children and grandchildren learn from. Let that legacy be full of warmth, of joy, of resilience. Let them see that growing old together is not just possible, but beautiful. Now that we've explored the strength of emotional connection, the final piece of our journey is putting it all together. Because true happiness in later life doesn't come from just one thing. It comes from how body, mind, and heart work in harmony. Up next, a powerful closing message that brings everything together. We'll talk about what it truly means to thrive at 80 and beyond, and how you can begin living that truth today. If you've made it this far, take a quiet breath. Sit back, feel the weight of your own story, and know this. You've just walked through 3 of the most important pillars that define a meaningful life after 80. And what's surprising, what catches many people off guard, is that none of these pillars are dramatic or complicated. They're not about fame or fortune or even perfect health. They're simple, subtle, often overlooked, but they're powerful. The ability to care for your body, to maintain your mental clarity, and to nurture emotional connection. These are the things that, though small in appearance, carry the greatest weight in shaping how we experience the years ahead. Think back for a moment. When was the last time you celebrated the fact that you could rise out of bed without assistance? Or remembered a friend's birthday without checking your notes? Or simply shared a laugh with someone you love? These may seem like ordinary experiences, but for many, they become rare gifts with age. And when we're wise enough to see them not as small victories, but as the true currency of life, we begin to understand that the later chapters of our story can be just as rich, just as vibrant, and just as fulfilling as the earlier ones. I've spent over a decade listening to the stories of older adults, those who thrived, and those who wish they had. What separates them isn't wealth or even health. It's awareness, a quiet understanding that what really matters can't be measured in numbers, but in moments. One woman once told me, I didn't need more years. I needed better ones. That stayed with me, because it's not about extending life at any cost. It's about enriching the days we're given, no matter how many remain. And that enrichment often begins in places we don't expect. A stretch in the morning, a deep breath at the window, a soft touch, a thoughtful conversation, a thank you whispered to your own legs for carrying you today. These are the threads that, woven together, create a life that feels whole. Taking care of your body, yes, that matters deeply. Not because of appearance or numbers on a chart, but because it anchors your ability to choose your day. When you move your body, you protect your freedom. When you nourish it, you show yourself love. When you listen to its signals, you prevent decline before it begins. And when you refuse to give up on its strength, even when it falters, you build resilience that touches every part of your life. But the body is just the beginning. What good is physical strength if the mind is clouded? That's why we talked about mental clarity, not as a test score, but as a felt experience. The ability to think clearly, to recall, to stay curious, and to process emotions with grace. A clear mind allows us to participate in our own life. It helps us make choices, solve problems, and savor memories. And perhaps most importantly, it helps us remember who we are, especially when the world tries to convince us we've become invisible. Then comes emotional connection. The quiet closeness of 2 people who have shared decades together. The tenderness of forgiving an old wound. The joy of laughing at something that only the 2 of you find funny. It's not about perfection. It's not about being the same people you were 40 years ago. It's about being present now, choosing each other again, even with new wrinkles and slower steps. And for those without a spouse, emotional connection is still possible and just as essential. It might come through friendship, faith, family, or community. As long as it's real, and as long as it fills your heart, it has the power to heal and uplift. Now, you may be wondering, okay, but what do I do next? And the answer is both simple and profound. Start small. Choose one thing, just one, that honors your body, your mind, or your heart. Maybe it's drinking a full glass of water first thing in the morning. Maybe it's writing down a memory before bed. Maybe it's calling someone just to say, "I was thinking of you." These actions are seeds. And even at 80, 90, or beyond, your garden is still growing. You are not done. You are not declining. You are simply evolving. And if you give attention to the small things, they will grow into a life that feels rich, full, and deeply yours. If this video resonated with you, if even one part of it made you reflect, smile, or feel hopeful, I ask you to do something. Not for me, but for someone else who may need this message just as much as you did. Backhand index pointing right, please like this video. It tells the platform that this kind of content matters. Pushpin subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing you thoughtful, uplifting conversations about aging with purpose. Speech balloon, and most importantly, leave a comment below. Share a story, a memory, or even just one word that captures what this video meant to you. Your voice matters, and you never know who you might inspire simply by being honest. Aging can feel lonely at times, but here, in this space, you are not alone. You are part of a community that honors experience, wisdom, and the beauty of imperfection. We don't believe that your best days are behind you. We believe they're still unfolding day by day, one breath at a time. And that belief is what keeps us here, creating, sharing, and reminding one another that a meaningful life is always possible. So here's my final thought for you today. Don't underestimate the power of the small things. Because in the end, they're the big things. The body that moves, the mind that remembers, the heart that still loves. These are not leftovers of youth. They're the essence of grace. And grace, unlike time, doesn't run out. It deepens, it expands, and it is available to you right now. So go gently, go bravely, and go with the knowledge that your life still holds so much value. You've come this far. You still have more to give. And the world is better because you're in it. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, take care of your body, protect your mind, and never stop loving with your whole heart.